Edge flange is the next sheet metal feature we will explore. But before we do that, let's edit the sheet metal feature in the Feature Manager tree and apply a gauge table. I'll begin by putting a check mark in front of Use Gauge Table. I'll then select the drop-down list and choose Sample Table, Aluminum. Now once this loads, I'll pick a gauge of 18. That table inserted values for sheet metal thickness of 1.2, an inside bend radius of 1.5, and a bend allowance with a K factor of 0.5. If you recall in an earlier lesson called Bend Allowance and Bend Tables, we applied a bend table to control the bend allowance. Now what we're doing with gauge table, this single gauge table controls the sheet metal thickness, bend radius, and bend allowance all within one table. So that may save you some time. And we're going to go with these options, so I'm going to click the green check mark. Now let's start an edge flange. I'm going to select the edge flange icon. The Property Manager opens, and it prompts me for an edge. I'm going to go out to the screen, select an edge, stretch out the flange, and pick an approximate point for the height. Going back to the Property Manager, you see we are using the default radius of 1.5. This default inside radius is taken from the sheet metal feature. Now, if you don't want to use the default radius, you can simply uncheck this box and insert a new value. The next item in the Property Manager is angle. We have the capability to change the angle of the flange. So watch the screen as I change these values. Notice the angle of the flange changes. I'm going to set it back to 90. The next item in the Property Manager is the length of the flange. We have three options: blind, up to vertex, and up to edge and merge. I'm going to begin with up to vertex. I'll go out to the screen, select a vertex point, and the flange extends to that point. The next option is up to edge and merge. This is for multi-body sheet metal parts. I'm going to open up another graphic to better explain this. For the up to edge and merge option, the edges must belong to different sheet metal bodies. They must be parallel to each other and have the same thickness. And this option is only available if you select a single edge. So I'm going to close out of this, and we're going to go with the first option of blind. And I am going to set the length of 10 millimeters. Now right below this, you do have control over how that 10 millimeters is applied. Do you want to apply it as outer virtual sharp? And again, watch the screen as I click through these. Or do you want to apply to inner virtual sharp or tangent bend? So you can try these out. You can zoom up, click through these, and see how each one of these options affects the sheet metal part. I am going to go with outer virtual sharp. Right below this, we have the capability to control the flange position. And I'm going to zoom up on this just so it's a bit easier to see. The first one is material inside. The next one is material outside. The third one is bend outside. The next one is bend from virtual sharp. And the last one, which you won't see any difference in the screen, is tangent to bend. I'm going to go with material inside. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And we also have the capability to apply an offset to this flange. So I'm going to put a check mark inside of this box here. And notice it applies an offset at a distance of 10 millimeters. I can key in a different value or simply use the arrows. And now it's at 20 and you see the preview update. I don't want an offset, so I am going to uncheck this box. Right below this, we have custom bend allowance, which is controlled by the gauge table that we inserted at the beginning of the lesson. And we have custom relief type. And this is a relief cut that is put in the part to make this bend possible. I'll go ahead and close out of the edge flange command so you can see the relief cut here. Now you may also notice that this corner here did not trim back on this adjacent flange. Well, there is a way to fix that. We can go back into edge flange 1, scroll down, and we have an option for trim side bends. So I'm going to go ahead and check it and close out of the edge flange property manager. And notice how it trimmed that adjacent flange. And it did it on both sides, both here and here. Now let's spin the part around and apply a second edge flange. I'll select the edge flange icon, go out and select an edge of the part, stretch it out, pick an approximate height. I'm going to go back to the window, select inside of the window so I can select a second edge and a third edge. You'll see that it automatically miters the flanges and it provides a gap distance between the flanges, and that gap distance is controlled here. And again, we can increase it or decrease it. Now let's talk about these different color arrows. The magenta arrows control the direction of each flange individually. However, the gray arrow controls the length of all flanges within this edge flange 2 command. So we've taken a look at this. Let's cancel out of this edge flange and try something different. I'm going to go back into the edge flange command, select a single edge, stretch it out, and key in a distance of 20 millimeters. I'm going to go back to the top of the property manager, and notice I have a large button here for Edit Flange Profile. I'm going to go ahead and select it. A dialog box appears stating that this sketch that you see right here is valid. It also allows you to change the shape or the profile of this sketch. I can grab this line here by holding down the left mouse button and dragging it to a new location. I can apply relations, smart dimensions, just like you would do with any sketch. I can change the shape. And if that's the profile I'm looking for, I can either finish, which would take me out of the edge flange command, or I can select back, which will take me back to the property manager for edge flange. So I'm going to select back, just in case I wanted to make any other changes here. We're going to try one more thing. I'm going to cancel out of this edge flange 2, and we're going to go back into the edge flange command once again. Select the edge flange, stretch it out, and this time we're going to make it identical to the flange on the opposite side. So we're going to set the length to 10 millimeters and trim the side bends. And this concludes our lesson on edge flange.